Two people are standing at the front of a room saying the same words, same vows, same rings, same photographs that'll sit on the same kind of shelf. From the outside on the day, you could not tell these two marriages apart. One of them married for money, one of them married for love, and you already have a verdict. You heard those two sentences, and something in you closed, fast, like a door. One of them is the good one, and one of them is the sad one, and you know which is which. And you're a little suspicious of anyone who has to think about it. Hold that verdict up to the light for a second, because it's about to get complicated, and the complication is the whole video. Same salary between the two households, same years. And hold on to the fact that the money's identical, because it means this video isn't really about money at all. It's using money as the label for a whole way of choosing. Marrying for money is shorthand for marrying by judgment. Stability, compatibility, the sensible assessment. Marrying for love is shorthand for marrying by feeling. Intensity, chemistry, the thing you can't argue yourself out of. Every marriage is some blend of the two, but people lean hard one way or the other, and the lean decides more about the next 30 years than almost anything else they'll choose. We're going to run both marriages forward 30 years and watch what actually happens, not what you were told happens, not the version in the songs, the actual mechanics of two people waking up next to each other for 11,000 mornings. And by the end, the clean line you drew at the start, the good one and the sad one, is going to be somewhere you didn't put it. And I'm not going to do the cheap reversal either, where it turns out the money marriage was secretly the happy one all along, and the twist is that love is a trap. That's just the same lazy video with the labels swapped. What's actually true is stranger and more useful than either flip, and it only shows up if we're honest about what each marriage really bought and what each one really cost on the specific mornings where the cost comes due. Let's start with the one you already feel sorry for. She married for money. Let's just say she, because the story's older that way, though it runs identically in every direction, and you should hear it that way too. Here's what you assume. She doesn't love him. She made a calculation. She traded the real thing for a comfortable thing, and somewhere underneath the comfort, there's a coldness, a transaction. A woman who sold something she shouldn't have. Now here's what's actually true, and it's more uncomfortable than the assumption. She wasn't lying at the altar. She married a man who was stable, kind enough, reliable, who'd provide, and she felt real affection for him. And she made a decision that affection plus security was a sturdier foundation than passion. Because she'd watched passion burn down houses her whole life, and she wanted a house that stayed up. That's not a cynic. That's someone who looked hard at the world and chose the thing that lasts over the thing that thrills. People have built good marriages on exactly that for most of human history. For most of human history, it was the only reason anyone married anyone. The love marriage is the historical newcomer here, and it's worth remembering that because we treat it as the eternal, obvious default, and it isn't. For thousands of years, marrying for passion was considered the reckless option, the one your family talked you out of. The idea that you should build the most important logistical and financial partnership of your life on top of the single most temporary emotion a human being can feel is, historically, a very strange bet that we've all simply agreed to stop finding strange. The one who married for love is the one you envy. They couldn't keep their hands off each other. It was electric, undeniable, the kind of thing that makes a room feel warm from across it. Everyone at that wedding cried the real way, because you could see it. The thing itself, the reason all the songs exist. They didn't do a calculation. That was the whole point. And they'd have found the very idea offensive. If you'd pulled one of them aside at the wedding and asked whether the other person was a good financial partner, whether they were stable, whether this would still make sense if the feeling faded, they'd have looked at you like you'd said something obscene. And that reaction, that refusal to even run the check, is the exact thing that will either save them or destroy them. And there's no way to know which from inside the feeling, because the feeling is specifically designed to make the question feel like a betrayal. Doing a calculation would have been a betrayal of what this was. You don't run the numbers on a fire, you just stand in it. And everyone told them it was the right way. That's the part that matters for what's coming. Every song, every film, every wedding toast confirmed that what they had was the real thing, and what the other couple had was a settlement. They walked into their marriage with the full endorsement of the entire culture, certain they'd chosen correctly, which means that when the trouble comes, and it's coming, they'll have no framework for it at all, because nobody warned the people who did it right that doing it right had a catch. 2 marriages. Let's move them through time. Year 3. The love marriage is still glowing and the money marriage is fine, pleasant, steady, a little muted. If you took a photo of both households at year 3, you'd want to be in the second one. Everyone would. Year 7. Something happens to both, and it's the same thing, and it happens to every marriage that has ever existed. The initial state wears off. The fire marriage cools, not out, cools. The electricity becomes ordinary the way electricity does, because you cannot sustain a nervous system response to a person you've watched brush their teeth 2,000 times. That's not a failure. That's biology running its normal course. And it isn't a small dimming either. The specific neurochemistry of early love, the part that makes you unable to eat, unable to concentrate, unable to see the other person's flaws, has a shelf life measured in months to a couple of years. It is not built to last structurally, because its evolutionary job was to bond 2 people long enough to start a life together, not to run that life for 50 years. Expecting it to still be burning at year 20 is like being angry that the rocket boosters fell off after they got you to orbit. They were supposed to. And here's the first fork, and it's a big one. The love marriage was built on the fire. That was the foundation. So when the fire cools, when it inevitably chemically cools, the marriage has a genuine crisis, because the thing it was standing on is the thing that just changed. They look at each other in year 7, and one of them thinks quietly, in a place they won't admit to, "Is this gone? Did we lose it? Was it supposed to feel like this?" The money marriage doesn't have that crisis, because it was never standing on the fire. It was standing on the decision. And the decision is exactly as true in year 7 as it was on the day he's still stable, still kind, still reliable. Nothing that mattered to the foundation has moved. So watch what just happened, because it's the opposite of what you expected at the start. The marriage built on love is the more fragile one. It had further to fall, and it fell. Height is the hidden risk nobody accounts for. We think of the intensity of the love marriage as pure upside. Look how much they have. Look how high they started. But everything that goes up that high has a corresponding distance to come down. And the come down is not gentle. And it arrives right around the time you've merged your finances and had your kids and made yourself maximally unable to leave cheaply. The fire is most seductive at exactly the moment it can do the most damage on its way out. Year 15. This is where it gets hard, and where I have to stop letting the money marriage win too easily, because there's a bill coming due on that side, and it's a real one. The money marriage is stable, and somewhere in year 15, she's sitting across the table from her stable, kind, reliable husband, and she feels it, the thing she traded away. She's never been seen. Not really. Not the way the fire sees you. There's a specific loneliness that lives inside a comfortable marriage, and it's worse than being alone, because you can't point to anything wrong. He's good to her, and she is quietly, permanently unseen, and she'll be carrying that at 60, in a beautiful kitchen, with nothing she's allowed to complain about. There's no language for that grief, which is what makes it heavy. If your husband is cruel, you can say so, and people will understand. And there are words and there is sympathy, and there is a door. But there's no accepted way to grieve a man who is perfectly kind and with whom you are perfectly alone. Say it out loud, and it sounds like ingratitude. So she doesn't say it. She files it, next to the trip she didn't take, and the version of herself that someone might have known, and she keeps the beautiful kitchen very clean. That's the price. It was always the price. She just didn't have to pay it until the comfort stopped being novel enough to distract her from it. But the love marriage in year 15, the one that survived the year 7 crisis, has something the money marriage will never have. And now we have to be honest about that. Because some of them do survive it. Not all. Many of the love marriages hit year 7, feel the fire go, conclude that means it's over, and leave, chasing the fire again with someone new, and hitting year 7 again and again because they think the cooling is a sign of the wrong person instead of a sign of time. That's the failure mode of marrying for love, mistaking the end of the chemistry for the end of the marriage. And it's an easy mistake to make, because the culture that told them to marry for the fire never told them the fire ends. So when it ends, they don't think biology just happened on schedule. They think they married the wrong person. And there's always someone new who can relight it. For a while, because the fire relights easily with anyone new and burns down to the same embers with everyone eventually. So they leave, and they chase, and they hit year 7 again. And some people do that 3 or 4 times before they understand that the person wasn't the problem. Time was. Time is always the problem, and it can't be divorced. But the ones who don't leave, the ones who look at each other in the cooled year 7 kitchen and decide to build something new on the ashes of the fire, they discover the thing the money marriage skipped. They discover that on the other side of the fire there's a second thing, quieter. It doesn't make the room warm from across it. It's not electric. It's the thing where someone has seen you at your genuine worst and stayed on purpose as a choice, not a chemical. And that turns out to be deeper than the fire ever was. The fire was involuntary. This is chosen. And chosen, it turns out, is worth more. And this is the thing the money marriage genuinely cannot access. So let's not soften it. There is no route from a decision to being seen. The money marriage was built correctly, on stable ground, and it will stand for 50 years. But it skipped the fire, and it's the fire, and specifically the surviving of the fire, that produces the being seen. You have to have been consumed by someone and come out the other side still holding their hand to get the deep version. The money marriage was too sensible to ever be consumed, and so it never earns the thing that only the consumed can earn. So now we have the real map, and it's not the one you drew at the start. The money marriage traded the fire for stability and got stability and paid for it with a permanent quiet loneliness that never fully goes away. The love marriage got the fire, then either died when the fire died, or, if it survived, earned its way to a chosen love that's deeper than what the money marriage ever had access to. 30 years. Let's stand at the end and count, the way we count everything on this channel. The money marriage, 2 people, still together, comfortable, secure, and a little bit alone inside it. Nobody's leaving. Nobody's devastated. There's a whole life here, and it's real, and from the outside, it looks like a success. And inside it, there's a room she doesn't go into, and her husband may never know the room exists. That's the final quiet cruelty of the low variance marriage. He did nothing wrong. He'll go to his grave having done nothing wrong. And he was married for 30 years to someone who was alone in a way he never detected. He got a good marriage, she got a good marriage, and a secret. Both of those are true at once. And there's no court in the world where you could assign blame. Because there's no crime, just a bet that paid exactly what it promised and cost exactly what it always quietly said it would. The love marriage, the surviving kind. 2 people who were on fire, watched it go out, panicked, stayed anyway, and built something on the other side that the fire was only ever the down payment on. They can't keep their hands off each other in a different way now, a way that has 30 years of being seen inside it. This is the best outcome in the video. Let's say it plainly. This one won. And it won for a reason that had nothing to do with why they married. Sit with that, because it's the hinge of the whole video. They married for the fire. The fire is not why they're happy at 30. The fire's been gone for 23 years. They're happy because of something they built after the thing they married for expired, in a room the fire led them into but did not furnish. The marriage succeeded despite its own stated reason for existing. They got the right outcome from the wrong premise and survived the gap between the two. And here's the thing that keeps this from being a song. For every one of those, there's a love marriage that didn't survive year 7. Same start, same electric wedding, same crying guests, same undeniable thing in the room. And they hit the cooling, and they read it as failure. And they blew up a marriage and a couple of kids' childhoods, chasing a feeling that was always going to cool with the next person too. So marrying for love isn't the safe bet. It's the high variance bet. It has the best outcome in the whole video and one of the worst, and the same wedding produces both, and you cannot tell on the day which one you're at. And marrying for money isn't the sad bet. It's the low variance one. It caps your downside. You'll never be destroyed. And it caps your upside too. You'll never have the year 30 love that was chosen through fire. You bought a floor by selling the ceiling. And nobody tells you that's the trade, because it doesn't sound romantic and it doesn't sound tragic. It just sounds like accounting, and we don't like to do accounting about love. But it's the truest sentence in this video. Every choice about how to build a marriage is a choice about variance, whether you name it or not. Some people need the floor and should never buy the lottery ticket. Some people would rather have 1 year of the real thing and the wreckage than 50 years of a clean, kind, distant peace. Neither is wrong, but they are different purchases, and most people make one without knowing the other was even on the menu. That's the actual trade, not good versus sad. Variance. The person who marries for money is buying insurance. The person who marries for love is buying a lottery ticket that sometimes pays out the best thing a human life contains and sometimes sets fire to the house. And which one is right for you has nothing to do with which is more romantic. It has to do with a question nobody asks before a wedding, which is, what happens to you when the fire goes out? Because it will. In every marriage, the involuntary part ends, on schedule, around year 7, and what you do in that kitchen is the entire game. Everything before it is chemistry. Everything after it is character, and character is the thing you cannot assess on a wedding day, which is the whole problem with weddings. You're making a lifelong decision using the 2 data points that matter least: how you feel right now, and how good they look on paper right now. Because the data point that actually decides everything, how they behave when the feeling's gone and the paper stops paying out, doesn't exist yet. You are, on your wedding day, guaranteed to be missing the only information that matters. Everyone is. That's not a flaw in your relationship. That's the structure of the thing. So here's the thing the whole video was walking toward. They both married the wrong thing. That's the secret. Money and love are both the wrong thing to marry for because they're both temporary. The money can go, and the fire always goes. And if you married for either one, you married for something with an expiration date. The thing that actually holds a marriage for 30 years isn't the money, and it isn't the fire. It's whether the person is still there choosing you in the cooled kitchen in year 7, when there's no chemical making them and no calculation rewarding them. Just a decision, made freely, to stay and be known and to know someone back. You can't marry for that because you can't see it on the wedding day. It doesn't exist yet. It gets built later in the exact moment both of these marriages, thought they'd hit their crisis. So stop asking whether to marry for money or for love. Ask who's going to be in the kitchen with you in year 7, when the thing you married for is gone and the only thing left is the person. And whether, on that morning, with nothing rewarding either of you for it, you'd both still choose to stay. And you can't know the answer in advance. I want to be honest about that rather than send you off with a comfortable instruction. There's no test you can run at the altar. The being seen, the chosen love, the person who stays in the cold kitchen, none of it is visible on the day, because none of it has happened yet. You are, every one of you, marrying partly blind. The best you can do is stop optimizing for the two things that expire, the fire and the paper, and start watching early for the thing that doesn't. Whether this is a person who stays when staying, stops being fun. That's the only thing worth marrying for, and it's the one thing nobody puts on the list.